Joining me now to discuss all of this is Middle East expert and senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, Dr. Qanta Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed, there's a lot to break down there with that, but I have to begin with asking you this very simple question. Do you think the U.S. will be able to mediate a path forward that satisfies both Saudi demands for Palestinian statehood and Israeli security concerns?
Absolutely. In fact, I think that the extraordinary press conference that was earlier this week in the White House with President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu opens the door for new solutions and new possibilities. President Trump was quite blunt. You can't keep reenacting history and expect a different result. And he's actually put the onus on the Arab and Muslim world to finally provide safe harbor for innocent Palestinians from this appalling conflict, while Hamas is extracted and removed from terrorizing both the Palestinians and the Israelis.
And Dr. Ahmed, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We know that not all those who are in Gaza are in support of Hamas being there, but how do you rebuild Gaza with members of Hamas still mixed and mingled with the people?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult, but we know from work, for instance, from the Center of Peace Communications, about hundreds, if not more, of anti-Hamas Palestinian voices that this week have actually welcomed President Trump's expansive ideas. But I think we should focus on, Nick, of what you've been seeing over this weekend, the atrocious condition of the 3 hostages that returned yesterday from Gaza captivity, while they're paraded, violating all principles of the Geneva Convention by Hamas, back into Israel. My medical colleagues there at the Ichilov Hospital are receiving Ohad Ben Ami, 157 professionals to receive 1 hostage. They're malnourished, skeletal, anemic. They've been deprived of food and light. And don't forget that this is now phase 1. We're 4 weeks in of the truce. And so we can imagine that Hamas has been feeding the hostages. So they have been absolutely dehumanized in captivity.
And Dr.
We also have so many more that are going to hopefully come back. And some of the most high-value captives to Hamas are Israeli soldiers who I fear have been terribly treated, that are a number of weeks away from being freed.
And unfortunately, Dr. Ahmed, like you just referenced there, their return is only the beginning of their recovery process. This week, Mr. Netanyahu also praised Mr. Trump as the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. He also said America has no greater friend than Israel. What could be the consequences from making such high-level political endorsements amid the ongoing ceasefire negotiations, Dr. Ahmed?
Well, first of all, it's actually, while we call it a ceasefire, it's an extremely fragile truce. It's a truce that I am very concerned may not hold. As we see hostages coming back in more and more perilous condition, and we're going to start seeing human remains of hostages coming back. We still have not seen Shira Bibas, the female hostage who had a 9-month-old and a 2-year-old child taken into captivity, abducted by Hamas. We're very fearful that she is deceased. I think when we start to see that, this is confirmation of Hamas's brutality. I think that the truce is going to collapse. We know that under the previous administration, Israel was very pressured. The conflict was prolonged. The hardship, including and the suffering, both of the Palestinian people and the hostages, was prolonged because of the policies of the Biden administration. I think that's what Prime Minister Netanyahu means. And at the same time, the stakes could never be higher for the Arab and Muslim world, who report that they care and they are suffering alongside the Palestinians, but fail to ever release them from the crosshairs of conflict. And that, as a Muslim, if I can speak to you, not as a senior fellow, is our responsibility to first preserve human life above the sanctity of any territory. And I think the entire Muslim and Arab world have departed from that principle at the expense of millions of lives, both in Palestine and in Israel. So the onus now is back in the Middle East.
Senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, Dr. Qanta Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and giving us your insight.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.